Welcome to For the Common Good with Juanita, a show where we inform, inspire, and empower our businesses, communities, and people just like you. And I am your host, Juanita Farrow. We have a great show today. Today, we're talking real talk. Yes, real talk. And I have as a guest on the show today, Reverend Abraham Mackey. Now, let me ask you this first. Have you ever felt you just needed someone to talk to? I mean, talk about everything from religion to politics to business. I know I have. Well, that's why we're having Real Talk today, because we're going to be covering all kinds of topics with Reverend Mackey. Reverend Mackey, let me tell you a little about him. He's an ordained minister and a pastor of 3 churches. He's a retired Navy officer, U.S. captain, licensed through the Coast Guard. He keeps up with the latest events, not to mention he's done radio broadcasting as well. Help me welcome to the show, Reverend Abraham Mackey. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I am so glad you're on the show today because, as I said, real talk, it's time for us to have conversations. And a lot of times those conversations are very difficult to have. But as a country, we need to learn how to talk to each other about different topics. Oftentimes we hear people say, oh, no, we can't talk about religion. Oh, no, we can't talk about politics. But today, we're going there. Let me ask you the first question here. You say it's important for us to follow politics to know what's going on. As a matter of fact, you have a personal relationship with a prominent United States representative. So tell us about your relationship with Representative Jim Claiborne.
Yes, Jim Clyburn is one of my mentors. Matter of fact, he taught me in high school.
Oh, wow.
And it was very, very outstanding just to be around him. Not knowing that one day he would be where he is today,
Oh, yes.
of course. And the thing that I love about him, he's a very down-to-earth person.
So he's like that in person.
Exactly.
It seems like that when you
Exactly.
see him on TV, but he is.
Yes, he is. And the one of the last time I saw him was what it was for our 40th school
Class reunion.
He was going to be our speaker.
Oh.
Well, I was unfortunately, I wanted to go, but I couldn't go because of the fact that I was pastoring at the time. And so what had happened, I found out that he was going to be speaking here in Virginia in a couple of months. So I got one of that, and I went down to TTC, tried it, Tidewater Technical College there, and he spoke.
Oh, okay.
And so after he spoke, they had a question and answering period. I really did not want to ask the question, but I did have something I wanted to say, and just to get a chance to say hello to him. So I said, when they gave him the mic and I spoke, and I told him who I was and let him know that he was one of my mentors. He's taught me in high school, and I'm here in pastoring a church, and I was in the Navy and this type thing. And then he came down off of the stage.
Oh, did he?
And embraced me, and then we took pictures together, and that's just the kind of person he is. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really, really amazing. It seems like he enjoys talking to people and getting to know people, and we need more people like that
Exactly.
are approachable, that you can approach and have conversations with. So thank you for sharing that story too. South Carolina native?
Yes.
Well, let me ask you about this. COVID-19 has turned our world upside down. In the midst of this pandemic, there are millions of cases of coronavirus in the United States, not to mention hundreds of thousands of deaths. Now, I'm sure in your circle you probably see a lot of people who've been impacted by COVID-19.
Most certainly.
Can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the community?
Well, you know, and people are abiding by the rules, and they are wearing their masks. That is one of the greatest things that we need to do, continuously doing it. Each time that we speak to our loved ones, we need to remind them, hey, make certain you have your masks on. And just try to stay safe. And this is a perfect time to read your Bible. You know?
No excuses anymore. Okay.
You know, and
quarantine.
This is a great time to get in contact with your loved ones and really assess your life as a whole. God does everything for a reason.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And this is not the first pandemic?
No, it's
first?
not.
Yeah.
No, it's just about 100 years ago it has been one. But then during that time, we didn't have the technology that we have now to be able to communicate with each other. During that time, they didn't have the capability like we have now to be able to communicate.
We've got all the social media and the technology and
Yeah.
everything to communicate.
So this is a great time to still get together. I'll tell you what normally happens on a personal note.
Sure.
My family and I, we started about during the same time when COVID first came about. We started every Sunday night at 7:30. We have a FaceTime.
Really?
To bring all of my siblings together, and we have a chance to speak with each other, to actually see each other's faces, to know
great.
exactly what's going on with them and their families, and then kind of assess what we need to do. We talk a little bit about politics. We talk a little bit about everything, and it just gives us a chance to relate to each other. We've always been a very close-knit family.
Wow.
And so this is
And it's really hard, especially now on our elderly population. And we've got to figure out ways to keep them engaged. They may not be as technologically savvy as many others are, but we still have to call them up on the phone and make sure they're doing okay, because isolation in this environment is very common. You hear reports about continued rises in suicide and other factors from people feeling very isolated during this time. And unfortunately, we're going to be in this for quite some time, for the long haul. So we've got to be prepared for that. But thank you for sharing that. I think that's a great idea. FaceTime, Zoom, whatever platform you have, stay in touch with somebody, because we definitely need each other to get through this. Wow, that's a great note to end on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to For the Common Good with Juanita. And today I'm talking to Reverend Abraham Mackey. And we're having real talk. Business, politics, religion. I wanted to ask you something, Reverend Mackey. Half of America watched in 2020 and had an awakening as we saw on national television the murder of George Floyd. A police officer's knee to the neck of this unarmed African-American man, and we watched him die. I'd like to ask you, what is your perspective on policing in America? What are we doing, and what should we be doing as it relates to our relationship with law enforcement?
Well, you have to really think about this. Our relationship with the police department is a relationship that was back in slavery. In other words, the police department was engaging to catch slaves.
That's true.
So even when the policeman does their recertifications, they have a picture, a black picture uh, of on the paper,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what they shoot at as a target.
Oh, the target.
So think about it. Think about it this
The
way:
optics there, yeah.
if you are the person that's always shooting at this black target all of the time, isn't it natural that when you have to use your weapon, that you would
Wow.
use it on that target?
You know, I had never thought about that and associated those two things. You know, who would think about that? But in the subconscious mind, who knows what's embedded in that subconscious mind because you've been doing it for so long.
So, what I have been doing before I even knew what the talk was,
The talk.
I have been talking to my siblings and our family for years about what to do when you are stopped by the policeman. And if you are a driver in the car, you will be stopped at one time or another.
Right.
And I normally tell my own children, if you, even if I'm in the car with you and you get stopped, no one else in the car says anything but you.
Mm.
As soon as you get stopped, you put your hand 10 and 2 on the wheels and you keep it there. Even before the policeman comes to you, you know, it normally takes them about 15 minutes before they actually come to the car. But you keep your hands on the wheel at the entire time. And I know it sounds childish, but think about it. You would like to leave there alive.
It's about staying alive
Okay?
at that moment.
So when he or she finally comes, you get permission. Other folks don't need to get permission, but Black Americans have to have permission to move their hands off of the wheel. So you get permission, and you ask, "May I obtain my credentials, my driver's license,
in the registration card?"
Exactly. And it's in my glove department. And you only need one hand for this. You use one hand and you get it, you give it to him, and you put that hand back on the steering wheel. The reason for this, the most important thing you would like to do is to leave that scene alive. If he gives you a ticket, that's all right. You take the ticket, smile, thank you, sir, for the ticket. Well, thank you, ma'am, for the ticket. I know the policeman said to me, I've never had someone to thank me for giving them a ticket before.
Wow.
What they didn't know, I was just thanking them because I'm going to be leaving alive.
Yes.
And that's the key. You would like to leave alive. And the other thing about this that I'm very cautious about, it does not matter what's going on in your life. When you get stopped by the policeman, you leave all of the other things behind you. You put on your best behavior. And if you have to, you say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Because remember, the important thing is to leave there alive.
Wow. Well said. Well, taking it to another level, because I absolutely agree that that's important. But I know that there's someone out there who's saying, but we have to do better. Our criminal justice system is not what it should be. And African Americans do not get a fair chance in our criminal justice system. So there has to be change. But it starts with advocacy. It starts with those voices out there that are demanding change. And one such example would be the church. Why is the church so quiet when it comes to these injustices seen by the shootings of unarmed African American men? Why is the church quiet?
That's a good question. You know, I believe strongly that the churches are our leaders. We have been led, everything in our lives have been really governed by the church. So the church cannot afford to be quiet. The churches needs to bring the department of the policemen in whatever state or county where they live, bring them in and have this conversation. And also, the reason I know what to do when I get stopped, because some years ago, I asked a policeman what to do.
So you have a relationship
Exactly.
with policemen. And
So
the same as me. I mean, I grew up, family members were police officers. So it was different because there was relationships
Right.
now. We're lacking the relationships
And
now.
then the other thing too, policemen are just like how we are. But the only difference is the fact that they wear that gun and that badge, and they have this confidence. Think about it. If you're wearing a gun and a badge, and you can just you tell him to do this and he does it, wouldn't you feel more confident? It's the same principle. But another thing, policemen also have to have more compassion for people, because they cannot just think that everybody who are Black Americans are criminals.
But there are many good police officers, but we have bad police officers as well.
Let's say this. The bad outwears the good.
It feels like that to the African American community,
Exactly.
certainly.
The bad is outwearing the good.
This is why I love real talk, you know?
Okay. So
because we're telling it like
let's
it
say,
is.
so we know we like to say everyone, we do have some, but why don't we take that some that we have and have them to come and talk with the ones who are not good and say, hey, we have to do better because we are working for the good of all people.
Yes, that's what For the Common Good is all about.
Not just white Americans, but all people.
All people.
This is the
all
United
Americans.
States. This is the United States of America. That means that all of us are in this together.
Yeah.
Now, personally speaking, I have 3 policemen who live right next door to me.
Oh.
And quite naturally, they speak with me, I speak with them. They walk the dog and that type thing. I don't have a problem with that at all, but let me share this with you. I do know if I get stopped by one of them by themselves, I have a better chance. But if they are with their colleagues and I get stopped,
it's a little different.
It's going to be different.
Wow.
Because policemen are like yellow jackets.
Okay.
Okay? If you ever noticed, you see a policeman would stop one person, but you would see 4 or 5 policeman cars there. That's where the yellow jackets comes. Okay?
Wow.
Okay. So, again, everyone needs to be more concerned about everyone else.
That's right. I think that's where it is. It's just common empathy for other people and what they're experiencing.
Who may not look like you.
Exactly. It's a great note to end the segment on. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to For the Common Good with your host, Juanita Farrow. Today, I'm talking to Reverend Abraham Mackey, and we've been having some real talk, business, politics, and religion. We've been talking about a host of things and what's happening in our country now. And I wanted to ask you, Reverend Mackey, what would be your vision for America? I mean, it seems like we are constantly at odds with each other. There's so much tension. We have so many things happening right now in the midst of the COVID-19. We have racial division. We have social injustice. All of these things. How do we even begin to come together?
Ms. Juanita, we have to learn the golden rules. treat others the way we would like to be treated ourselves. And if we can go back to that, things would be a whole lot better.
I agree. It's just getting back to that, which will take forever, it seems like. But you know what? I always say the transformation of anything, even with a country, starts one person at a time.
Exactly.
I say one heart, one mind, one thought at a time. As we think it, so we become. So if we start changing how we see things, things will start to change. Everybody that we see doesn't have to be our enemy. Mm-hmm. Get to know them.
Exactly.
Because you can't judge a person without knowing them. And if we talk to each other more, spend more time talking to each other rather than judging each other. Do you think that would be helpful?
That would be very, very helpful. Let me share something with you, if I may.
Sure.
I was as you know, I was in the Navy. And I was in boot camp, and I met this gentleman. He was from Iowa. Mm. And he said he'd never met someone who's black before.
Wow.
In person. The only thing he knew about the African American is what he saw on Tarzan. So he was really shocked when he and I began to talk, and I learned something about him, and mm-hmm. he's learned something about me. Mm-hmm. And we became the very best of friends. So that's what it takes. Everyone needs to judge people on who they are mm-hmm. without being stereotyping mm-hmm. someone. Mm-hmm. So if we learn to do that, and we learn to ask God to show us and guide and direct our path, things will be better for us in the long run. Mm-hmm. We need to always respect one another, respect our ladies, and don't let anyone disrespect them. We have some beautiful queens. We need to, as brothers, we need to respect our ladies, and we need to make certain everyone else does likewise. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, we need to learn to respect ourselves.
That's where it starts.
So if you don't respect yourself, then no one else is going to do it. The Staples Singers had this song by the name of Respect Yourself. Mm-hmm. Well, okay.
Okay, we're going to have a singing session here. Okay. All right. Well, I know you came from South Carolina, and I know your parents had such a big part of your life and the person that you would grow up to be. So what was the most important thing that your parents taught you when you were growing up?
My parents was the Reverend Arthur and Rosa Mackey from South Carolina. My parents raised 2 boys and 5 girls, and out of 7 children, I'm always in the middle. I was the 4th child.
Oh wow!
And my parents taught us that we were no better than anyone else, but we were no worse than anyone else, and that we always treat others with respect. Yeah. And we always go out and do our best. It's not your best, Miss Juanita, but it's my best.
Right.
Because we all have different talents. The other thing our parents taught us was, my parents taught us that on our fingers, on our hand, mm-hmm. you have different fingers, and all of the fingers are not matching. Mm-hmm. Some are larger and taller than others. Mm-hmm. In other words, one may be shorter, but we all can contribute to the body of the family.
It takes all those fingers working together.
Exactly. Huh? And so that's the way how we learn to do this. One more thing about my parents. I've said this many times before, that in the Navy, my parents gave me this Bible. It was a small testament reading of the Bible. And they said to read it every day. And I took the Bible with me. I did 30 years in the Navy. Mm-hmm. And out of all the things that I've had and not having anymore, and don't have anymore, I still have that little Bible that my parents gave me over 40 years ago.
Wow.
Yes. As a matter of fact, it's about 47 years ago my parents gave me this Bible.
Very meaningful.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your
Most
story.
certainly.
And thank you, Reverend Mackey, for the real talk today.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to For the Common Good with Juanita. We'll see you next time.